Okay, so now we pose a hypothetical question. Um, Basically, what I'm getting at is what telescopes eventually become like microscopes, and microscopes eventually become like telescopes. What I want you to think about is what happens when you use a microscope to start off with. You look at a solid object, then you look at its surface, you go deeper into the surface, you start seeing molecules. If you go deeper into that surface, you see the space around the molecules, and then you start to realize most of it is space, and you can start to see atoms. If you go deeper into that, then you start seeing fundamental particles, and so forth. And the telescope is kind of different. You point it outwards, but from the lens of the telescope, um, it, from the lens outwards, you're actually pointing at something. So you point at the atmosphere, yeah, and then as you're pointing at the sky. So the more powerful the telescope becomes, you actually uh, go right through the atmosphere, go right through until you see the farthest distance. If you point it at the moon, you'll be able to see the surface of the moon, and if it gets more powerful, you'll be able to see molecules on the surface of the moon. If it gets more powerful than that, you'll be able to. This is the telescope I'm talking about. You'll be able to see the atoms on the surface of the moon. If it gets more powerful than that, I'm sure you get the point. So won't there be a time when telescopes, you point it at the sky, you see stars, you see a star, then you see uh, that. um, well, I developed a conspiracy theory, so you can call this a conspiracy theory as well. So you see a round object with smaller round objects going around it. That's the atom and electron system, isn't it? I wonder why they're so similar. So as for the microscope, if you go through the solid objects, you start seeing atom and molecule systems and mostly space. You go through that, you see the fundamental particles. Is it possible to see through since it's majority space, when you look at a physical object, is it possible to see through this the solid material you're looking at, to see through the earth and see on the other side, see through the atmosphere and see a distant star just by pointing your microscope on the ground? Yeah, you see through the surface of the earth, you see the molecules on the surface, you start to see to see atoms within those molecules. Can't you see all the way through? You should be able to see all the way through a tiny gap to start seeing through the atmosphere on the other side to see stars. So eventually a telescope is like a microscope, and eventually a microscope might be like a telescope. So with these two scenarios, are we just going around in circles? That's it.